What's up, YouTube? I'm Robert, and this is the biker channel, B1. Today is a really good day because it's new bike day.
Over the last few years, I've had a handful of bikes, most of them Santa Cruz. It all started with the V2 Bronson, and next thing you know, I'm buying an aluminum Chameleon. One test ride on a buddy's bike, and now I own a carbon Chameleon. Then guess what? Santa Cruz brings out the V3 Bronson, and I can't get that sweet gray out of my head. Boom, new bike. What got me to where I am today is my hardtail was beating my back up, but I really loved riding it. So I got this thought in my head about getting a short travel 29er, and next thing you know, I'm making this video. Well, all of you that guessed I bought a Tallboy, I guess you win the award for the obvious choice. However, some of you wondering how I came up with that sweet ass paint job? This is my buddy Brandon. He's starting a bike painting business that we'll get to in another video. Until then, know he's the man behind the curtains on this one. And if you want, give his Instagram, BizMod Bikes, a follow while he's setting up shop. After considering the Yeti 115 and the Rebel Rascal, I ended up choosing the Santa Cruz Tallboy. It was the only one of the three that I could find on account of COVID, and let's be honest, I'm a fan of Santa Cruz bikes. I'm a brand loyalist, and when you do something right over and over, it's hard to convince me to go elsewhere. Let's talk about the build. I started out with this large CC frame in mustard, which I really wasn't a fan of, so BizMod Bikes took care of me there. I bought a set of green 216-point engagement hubs from Project 321, and they laced them up to some Stan's Carbon Baron CB7 hoops. The offset spoke placement kind of messes with my head, but they seem to ride great. I decided to try the XC version of Cushcore because I wasn't thinking I was going to go as big on the tires. However, I ended up with a 2.5 front Maxxis DHF and a 2.4 DHR2 in the rear. After a few rides on them, I think I may size up a little. The XC Cushcore isn't recommended for tires this wide and is more of a rim protector at this point, rather than giving the sidewall stiffness that I really like about Cushcore. That being said, the Cushcore Pro will definitely be installed with the new tires. Since the GX axis has been awesome on my Bronson, I decided to put it on here as well. I also went with the 52-tooth Eagle cassette, and I must say it does like to drop the chain sometimes when you're sitting on the trail and just backpedaling. In addition, I have 3 complaints about Axis. One is the cost, obviously. Second is that they don't let you tune the cassette or individual gears using the app. And then the last one, it's silly, but it's the button orientation for shifting, but fortunately, they allow you to change this in the app. Otherwise, it's everything I'd want a wireless shifter to be. Pro tip, set it up to shift infinitely when you hold the button down. I also put on a black XX1 chain for no other reason than, well, Instagram. Oddly enough, because of COVID, I had to call 12 shops to find one. If you watch this channel for a while, you won't be surprised that I chose Shimano Saints for the brakes, paired up with some Shimano Ice Tech rotors. I tested the 4-piston XT brakes with the Chameleon, and although they were really good, it would take me a few minutes of riding to get used to the lack of braking power when I switched from the Saints I had on the Bronson. I also had this specialized power comp saddle on the Chameleon, and initially, I put it on this build. But I have since replaced it with the Ergon SM Enduro Pro, and to be honest, I'm not really stoked with that one either. I really like the shape and may go for a little more cush model instead. Let's just say, it's not super comfortable. The 170mm Bachelor that I had on the Chameleon is still running perfectly, and unfortunately because this frame is a little smaller, it just didn't have enough drop. So I purchased the 1UP 210mm dropper, and so far, it's been flawless. I will say that I do like PNW's loam lever a little better than the one that comes with the 1UP. However, the one in the box works just fine, and honestly I wouldn't spend the extra money on it, but if you already have one, I'd probably use that. I also got a new set of Pedaling Innovation pedals. They may look a little odd, but every friend of mine that's tried my spare set has bought a set. They are really that good. It feels so much better having your foot supported instead of feeling your toes and your heel curl over the pedals. If you use the link that I have in Show More to pick up a set for yourself, it won't cost you anymore, and I'll get a little kickback. I will warn you right now though, if you have a second bike without them, you'll end up buying another pair. I moved my old XX1 crank and SRAM dub bottom bracket over from the Chameleon. No complaints there. I also moved the 1-up carbon handlebars that I had on the Chameleon over, and after riding the Tallboy with the 40mm stem I had, I decided to put a 50mm 1-up stem on. It seemed like the front end was coming up a little bit on climbs, and so far that seems to have fixed it. The green DVO diamond that's bumped down to 140mm was moved over from the Chameleon and is still a set it and forget it fork. It's been really good to me, and it seems to be right at home with the lively ride that the Tallboy offers. The last part of this build I chose purely out of curiosity. I keep hearing people talk about the Rev Grips in the same manner that I talk about pedaling innovations. So I bought a pair of the Pro Series RG5 grips. They look good, but comfort-wise, I'm running them on the medium setting, and so far, I'm not totally sold on them. I'm going to try to change them to the even more squishy setting and see how I feel about that. I climb with my hands on the outside of my bars a lot, like I have bar ends on, and I've really been digging the one-clamp grips like the Owry V2s or the Ergon GA Fat grips. So realistically, my biggest complaint is it's just not as comfortable when I'm holding the outside of the bars. So that's it for the build. Let's get this thing out on the trail and talk about how it does out there. Hopefully this thing rides as good as it looks.
So many new things on this bike. I know it's going to take me a little bit to get used to it and to really be able to determine like, oh, that's what's actually making me feel this way or that way on something. Let's see how this goes. I'm definitely feeling that power up this stuff. Whoa, there we go.
This thing definitely climbs like a billy goat. And like I said earlier, the 40mm stem and somebody my height with the seat extended as far as it is really makes that front end lift. However, once I changed it to 50mm, things have been much better, but I can still feel it a little light on the front end.
Nope.
Coming from a 27.5-inch wheel to a 29er, my jumps have been timed just a little bit weird, and that's taken a little getting used to. But after a few rides, it seems like my brain's kind of made the adjustment. So just take that into account if you're coming from a smaller wheel to a bigger wheel, that your jump timing may be a little off.
Man, maybe I should have brought the Bronson. Jesus, this is chunky.
Ultimately, I'm still trying to figure out where the cutoff line is between this bike and the Bronson. This thing will handle the chunk, but in short bursts. If you're doing a trail that has a lot of chunk sustained over time, the shorter travel will just beat you up. This bike's definitely more comfortable in the flowy sections, but with short bursts of chunk.
Hey, do me a favor, real quick. Just stop whatever you're doing. I know you like this part, but right down there somewhere, there's a button. It says subscribe. Hit that button, and then maybe the thumbs up too. That'd be rad. Anyways, back to the video.
So let's recap a little. Why did I buy this bike? Ultimately, the Bronson's a great single quiver bike. However, I really wanted a bike that's better suited for the less chunky rides that didn't beat my body up as much as the hardtail. This thing definitely has taken the edge off of those rides. The 29-inch wheels have great rollover, carry speed well, and help compensate for the short suspension design. The Tallboy is really playful, and it's been my bike of choice for the local trails. If I'm heading up the mountains for a chunk fest or fast riding that begs for a flickable bike with plenty of travel, the Bronson's still my go-to. If there's something you feel like I missed or didn't cover that you're just curious about, hit me up in the comments. I'll look forward to chatting with you there.
One thing though, remember, it only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one. Whoop.